Hey there, and thanks for checking in with MeetYourSweet.com. Today I'm going to open up a whole can of worms for you. Here's a few questions to think about. Should you settle for somebody who's almost exactly what you hope for? How should you interpret mixed messages from a guy? And is it normal for a guy to say he loves you but still enjoy attention from other women? Some women make a real habit of accepting less in their relationships, and I think you know what I'm talking about here. Yep, I'm talking about settling, which is basically a word that means accepting less in your relationships than you really want or deserve. In other words, settling can be construed as any dating situation where things are almost right or they're sort of okay, and you know this isn't really what you think of when you imagine a dream relationship, but it's a scary world out there and it's just plain easier to stay put. Here's a real-life example of settling in action for you. I'm one of the online dating and relationship coaches at Meet Your Sweet, and as part of what I do is coach people via the internet on their love lives. So the other day I got an email from a woman, we'll call her Violet, who said that when she was using her boyfriend's email account, she busted him accepting invitations from random women through an online dating site to meet up and have sex. She wrote in asking me whether or not she should break up with him because it was the best relationship she had ever had in a long time. He told her he wanted to marry her someday, and the clincher for her was that, quote unquote, he hadn't had sex with anyone else yet. Now I gotta tell you, this question freaked me right out. How can it be acceptable to maintain such a relationship simply because apparently he hasn't slept with any of them yet? Glib outrage aside, I appreciate that it's truly heartbreaking when you've met someone who you think could be the one and they turn out to be a complete jerk. But that's still no excuse to settle for a relationship that is clearly completely unsatisfactory. But to Violet, the situation still had a lot of hope in it, and the reason for that is because she was focusing on what he was saying to her, not how he was treating her. She just got totally caught up in the fact that he said he loved her and that he wanted to marry her someday, and she completely forgot that when a guy really loves you, he doesn't do things to make you sad and miserable, like accepting invites from other women. Something I advocate when it comes to figuring out mixed messages is paying attention to his actions over his words. For example, in Violet's situation, she's allowing herself to become confused by what her boyfriend is saying, you know, that he loves her and wants to marry her someday, instead of paying attention to what he's doing, which is making solid plans to cheat on her with random women. When you focus on how the guy in your life is acting as opposed to what he's saying, his feelings and his intentions naturally become a lot clearer. It's really easy to tell someone what you think they want to hear for the sake of maintaining the status quo or to stop their feelings from getting hurt, but you can't misread actions. Paying attention to how a guy acts over and above what he says is a fantastic way to make sure you're both on the same level when it comes to the relationship and what you want out of it. And it can save you a lot of time and heartbreak down the road. What it all boils down to is that when you really care about someone, you want to do things that make them happy, not just tell them things that sound nice. Now I realize this might sound pretty obvious at first, and it is, but the truth is that most women don't actually apply this truth to their own dates and relationships. Plenty of women are prepared to settle for a relationship that is less than simply because they get mixed up between paying attention to what somebody says instead of what they do. If you can really start to pay attention to how a guy acts as opposed to what he says, you're going to be a lot more in tune with where things are headed, and you'll be able to make any decisions about who you date and where your relationships are headed from an informed point of view rather than just being totally blindsided if things should turn out for the unexpected. When it comes to guys, a lot of women complain that they're receiving mixed messages and that it's unclear what he's really thinking. As it should so happen, the truth is that there aren't any mixed messages. It's most likely that those women are paying attention to what a guy says, which is often something really nice sounding and designed to not upset anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, as opposed to how he's actually acting, which generally speaking shouts the real message loud and clear. So let me just sum up those 3 questions for you. First question, should you settle for somebody who's almost exactly what you hope for? If you're really interested in the idea of truly great relationships with the man of your dreams, then you're seriously getting in your own way if you're settling for somebody that's just less than. Second question, is it normal for a guy to say he loves you but still enjoy attention from other women? Now, I'm not going to generalize about what constitutes good and bad behavior in anyone's relationship, but come on now. You know when someone's behavior is making you feel insecure or shaky, and it's worth remembering that if you communicate that truth to someone and they carry on doing it, they probably don't have your best interests at heart. And third question, how should you interpret mixed messages from a guy? When it comes to guys, there are no mixed messages. Men tell us what they think and feel loud and clear all the time, but they tend to do it with their actions rather than their words. Letting a guy tell you how he feels with his behavior is a foolproof method for figuring out where he thinks the relationship's headed and saves a lot of time in the long run. If you want more great dating advice, go on and check out the website. And thanks so much for checking in with MeetYourSweet.com.